Welcome to a little SEC After Dark action. It's Wednesday night. We're going to have a lot of good stuff to talk to you about today. We're going to talk to you a little bit about Will Muschamp at Georgia and what he's going to do. We're going to take a look around the SEC. If you understand what I did there, you'll understand what I did there. And, of course, we'll talk about Plumlee at slot. Corey, how you doing, bud?
I'm good. Cheers, man. Cheers. Got the Sammy Adams going. It was the hottest day on record for this year at Tennessee. So I have been doing all the sweating today, but I'm fired up that this chat box is here, and I'm here. I'm ready to. I'm ready to roll.
You obviously got a little Matt Luke voice action going. You're starting to lose it a little bit. Doing some yelling out there on the practice field?
Oh yeah, the last 2 days have been, let's just say, trying my patience. We'll leave it at that. Trying my patience.
Before we get started today, we want to let everybody know the chat is actually activated. And the way the chat works is the live screen. Comment on the Facebook stream, comment on the YouTube stream, comment on the Twitch stream. Go to our Discord page, subscribe to that. You can chat in there, and it'll all be aggregated to where you can participate on the show. We're going to work on Corey being able to see it. If he's having trouble with it, we don't know about that. We'll find out whenever something hits. But we want to get in the habit before the season starts of the chat being available even before we take phone calls, because phone calls are coming to this program.
Oh yeah, phone calls. I'm excited for that, man. First
Hotty
time,
toddy,
long
Brett.
time. Hotty toddy, Brett. Welcome. Even though I'm not a rebel. Britt, you're a rebel without a cause, my man. You're a rebel without a cause. So, dude, this is exciting, man. You're big things. But I did read your social media post. I hate the news that I heard that you have to get another gamma knife procedure, but more power to you, and hopefully a speedy recovery.
Yeah, it won't be like the last surgery, which knocked me out of commission basically from July to the end of the year. It's an outpatient procedure. They should do it in a day. The side effects should be minimal. This was a conversation I was expecting to have with my doctor, that this tumor has grown and we need to go radiate it. But I was expecting it to come when I was 60, not 2 years after I had the procedure.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, that's definitely one of those things where, you never know with tumors. I mean, when my dad was going through this stuff, obviously yours wasn't cancerous, but when he was going through his brain tumor stuff, he was, they had it all out. They had everything taken care of, and they thought they did in February. Then in March, middle of March, that same year, they came back with a vengeance and never left. So
yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's what, 8 years ago now, so it's sucks, but that's what happened. That's what ended up happening. So we're getting a live look at you adjusting your and I do see Britt's comment, by the way. I didn't mention that. So
yeah, so it works out. We're going to get a little kinks out of the way. Doing the SEC After Dark show with the chat so it can all appear. But thank you for participating in the show. We're going to get started today in Athens, Georgia, your stomping ground. You do the Believe in Dogs podcast on the Believe Network, and his YouTube page is down there on the screen.
You got it.
But Will Muschamp moves in as special teams coordinator after Scott Cochran basically got... We don't know exactly what happened, but whatever they did, it feels like something happened urgently and a decision was made within the last week. So get well, Scott. Take care of everything you have to do. But we're going to look at Will Muschamp at Georgia. Georgia runs a 3-4. Kirby's a 3-4 guy. Will's a 4-3 guy. What kind of mesh do you expect from Will Muschamp at Georgia?
Well, he's just going to have to get in where he fits in at this point. I mean, we're too far down the road, so he's going to have to, just come in and do it Kirby's way, and then give his input on some fundamental stuff. But as far as scheme goes, he's just got to play catch up. So yeah, he's going to have to kind of go with what the scheme is right now.
Yeah, and just so everybody knows, Kirby being a 3-4 guy and Will Muschamp being a 4-3 guy, it matters a little bit in how they're specializing, but basically every defense is over and under. So there's going to be able to adapt and to be able to do things. If anything, Will Muschamp might add some 4-3 type principles into the Georgia defensive system that could make them even more effective, especially in the blitz game.
Well, if there's anybody that Kirby will listen to in the defensive scheming stuff, it's going to be Will Muschamp. I mean, he's got a big pedigree. They're friends. They were teammates briefly. And Will Muschamp is a well-respected defensive coordinator. Comes in this role. He's going to help mentor Dan Lanning, who, with this move, Dan Lanning is going to be a head coach, and he's going to be a star somewhere. So we're going to see him. I would be surprised if Dan Lanning was here after this year, especially if Georgia pulls it off and wins the national championship. I doubt it because he's going to get hired away.
Dan Lanning really cut his teeth at Memphis. He went there with Mike Norvell. And Mike Norvell is known, looking back on it, at hiring good people. He was a good hirer. If you were too good for Memphis, you were good enough for the Memphis job, is the way he basically looked at it. So it's one of those reasons looking at ACC After Dark with Florida State. Yeah. He's going to turn this around. Mike Norvell is going to look into the future and figure out a way to turn this around at Florida State, probably fairly quickly.
Yeah, fairly quickly, but they got a long way to go on their roster overhaul. So it may not be as quickly as people are thinking. It's definitely not going to be this year after examining their roster. They'll be a little bit more competitive, but it's going to be a rough go for Florida State this particular season. But he's going to make some great hires. He always does. He always finds those gems. He develops his assistants, lets them get up through the ranks, and send them off to head coaching jobs. So that's what Mike Norvell is. And Florida State really got a good coach at Norvell. He's going to change the culture there. He already is. Some people have pushed back, and that's to be expected. But I think he's doing a great job so far.
So anyway, we're to change the subject a little bit. We're talking about Dan Lanning, the defensive coordinator at Georgia, and Will Muschamp coming to Georgia. So between Kirby, Dan Lanning, and Will Muschamp, there's a heck of a brain trust on the defensive side of the ball. And my worry about the offense being turned loose is now even a little bit more, pronounced, because Will Muschamp and those guys, because Will Muschamp put in the Mike Bobo system, slow down, run the ball at South Carolina last year, protect your defense. Same Dan Lanning as the Kirby Smart system the last couple of years. Kirby Smart notoriously puts his thumb on the offense. I'm genuinely worried about this. I bring it up far too much.
You do, because they had a red zone period the other day, and the offense scored in 3 plays against the ones on defense. So I'm not worried about it. I think there's a lot of signs, like we've talked about numerous times. There's a lot of signs that Kirby is going to take his thumb off the offense. Having another guy in Will Muschamp to help with the defense is going to be even more so. They're gonna just cut it loose and they're gonna get after it because you got some principles and some schemes and some things that Will Muschamp brings to the table. You got what Dan Lanning's got on the table, and then of course Kirby Smart as well. You blend all those concepts together, they're going to be pretty good. They got a lot of veteran leadership up front, on the defensive line and in the second level at the linebacking core. They got a couple veteran guys from the transfer portal. They got a really good players coach type for the defensive backs coach. They're going to compete. They're going to get after you. They don't care. Put us on the field at any time, anywhere, any place, and we will stop you. And the offense is like, you can't stop us. So Kirby knows that. Kirby's seen it the last 2 years. He's been burned by it the last 2 years. So, if he gets burned by it again, it's on him.
This is one of those years where if he pushes the right buttons, Georgia has the talent to win 12 games.
They could run the table. Season. They really could.
And if they can get past Clemson, it could all open up for them. But it's going to be imperative on the right buttons being pushed. And, especially in games like in Jacksonville. Like last year, Florida had no business really beating them last year. But, for some reason, the linebackers couldn't run with the running backs. And Dan Mullen figured that out and used that to perfection. Now, I don't think that will happen this year, but you have to avoid any hiccups. You don't want to drop the Missouri game, as scary as that might be, or go up to Arkansas and get beat. And it's one of those things where Georgia can do really special things. They can also finish 9-3 this season.
They really could. I mean, this is a tough league. It always is, always will be, always has been. So it's not easy. But as far as SEC context, this might be one of the easiest schedules they've had in quite some time. So you match up a loaded roster with a relatively, when I say relatively in terms of SEC, easy schedule. So there's no excuses now for them not to run the table. They had a few injuries last year coming into the Florida game. You had some inexperience in the defensive backfield. Coverages got busted, and then the dam broke, and it was too late, too little, too late. If you remember the start of that game, Georgia landed the first few knockout blows, had Florida on the ropes, let them off the ropes, and had a disastrous second quarter. The momentum of the game swung mightily in Florida's favor, and then there was nothing Georgia could do after that. Because once you got Kyle Trask and Kyle Pitts going, and Kyle Pitts didn't even finish that game, once you got that offense going, it was over. So you got to avoid those type situations. Like, you've got to have depth because there's going to be injuries that happen in this league. It's a tough league. So you've got to have people that are ready to play beyond just the starters. And I think they do. I think they have that. I think they have a good rotation of defensive backs finally. I think the linebackers are good. I think the guys in the wings are good. I think you got a really good, steady rotation at defensive line. I mean, you got guys on that side of the ball that aren't starting that could start anywhere else in the conference.
Yeah, they absolutely could. And I'm looking forward to see what could happen at Georgia. And this really could be a special year, especially with Alabama having to retool things at the beginning and so many landmines early. They've got that Ole Miss game and the Texas A&M game back-to-back weeks. And if they don't get it fixed out by mid-October, the season could be over for the Crimson Tide.
It really could be, and it's going to be interesting. That 2-game stretch right there, if I'm an Alabama fan, I'm nervous because, they're going to – I think they're going to get through September unscathed. I mean, they could – their talent alone can step out there and beat Manny Diaz and De'Ara King and the Miami Hurricanes. I think that Saban's going to outcoach Diaz. That's going to be the difference in that game, and we'll talk about it more as we approach it. But it's going to be, who knows what that team's going to look like because you have Bill O'Brien as offensive coordinator, you have Bryce Young at quarterback, you have a significant. Well, I don't want to say significant, but you have a step down. I'm sorry, John Mechie. I'm sorry, Slade Bolden. It's a step down from Jalen Waddle and Devontae Smith. That's not a knock on them. It's just those two guys were first rounders, early first rounders. And you got to replace that. You got to replace Najee Harris. You got to replace the quarterback, and the guy calling the plays isn't as good. So lots of things to replace, but they're Alabama.
Yeah.
So at what point, how does that balance? Who knows this year?
At some point, all these changes and replacements has to matter, even at a team like Alabama. There's going to be a slip up that gets them. There's going to be something that happens. Like I said, I do not trust Bill O'Brien. Jake Thomas on the Best of the West show last night talked about them running more 2 tight end sets. And if the offense looks more like it did previously, Alabama's in trouble. It's a horrible hire. I need to see it. Basically, with Alabama, show me, bring it.
Yeah, and if there's anybody out there watching the stream, chime in on the chat. Let us know what you think. What is Alabama going to do? Are they going to be as good? I just have a hard time believing that. They're going to come back down to the pack. Now, whether the pack decides to catch up to them is a different story. But there's some teams out there, A&M, Ole Miss, LSU, teams that can jump up there and contend. And I really like this A&M team too. So it's going to be, I'm rooting for Ole Miss in the West. I like A&M, their chances. I just don't think Bama's going to win it this year. I do not think they're going to win the West. That's my prediction. Right? I think I don't know.
Brandon Boykin picked Ole Miss to win the West. He did on the J-Boy show.
Attaboy, Brandon. Attaboy. That's my guy right there. I graduated with his brother in high school. So, That was cool. But yeah, that's a great pick. I mean, if they just have even if they just Steve have a mediocre defense, they're going to be really good because they're
Yes.
going to score.
60th in the country. If you're, instead of giving up 30 points, 34 points a game, you're giving up 26, you're all of a sudden, instead of 5-5 like last season, you are 9-3. Yeah, you're 8-2. And only the Alabama game, which probably wouldn't have happened, but Alabama and Florida would probably have been the two losses.
Yeah, and that Alabama game could have swung either way. I mean, Ole Miss 50-pieced them.
Hmm?
But unfortunately, Bama 60-pieced them and
Yeah.
ended up winning the game. But it just felt like, God Almighty, whoever had the ball last was going to win that game because every time each team touched the ball, he scored. It was crazy.
Brett's asking who our preseason number one, because it sounds like they're not our preseason number one. And
Boston College. NC State.
No, I want to see what Oklahoma looks like. I think Oklahoma is probably the best team in the country right now as far as what's coming back and what they have on defense. Oklahoma would be my preseason number one. Now, whether or not by the end of the year Oklahoma is still number one, that's a different story altogether. But that's something you should keep an eye on, see what's going on. But they're probably my preseason number one.
Yeah, you got to think Ohio State has got to be in the mix there somewhere as well. They're for some reason always right there. Oklahoma, I really like Oklahoma. In a college setting, Spencer Rattler's really good. I don't like him personally. I don't think he'll do well in the NFL. But for Lincoln Riley and the Sooners, they're going to be really good. They're going to score. They can play a little bit of defense. So, yes, to answer your question, I think, Steve, you and I agree that Oklahoma's the best team in the country right now.
Yeah, and Lincoln Riley, what people don't realize, Oklahoma runs the air raid. They go back to 1999 when Mike Leach was the guy. Lincoln Riley is an air raid guy. Now, it's a hybrid air raid. It's more like Graham Harrell or somebody like that, where there's more run concepts that they can do. Mm-hmm. But it's the air raid, so it's a unbelievably quarterback-friendly offense with a running game.
Yeah, and Lincoln Riley loves the counter run game. He loves quarterback counters if he's got a guy that can run like Jalen Hurts and Kyler Murray. He loves RPOs off the counter. That's his favorite play. Pull the backside guard, pull the backside tackle, and throw off of it. Baker Mayfield did a ton of that while he was there. So it's more predicated on like gap schemes in the run game, and then RPOs off of those gap schemes for Lincoln Riley, which you got some air raid guys that are outside zone, inside zone. You got some guys that are gap scheme. It just matter what fits for you.
Yeah. And today, believe it or not, on social media, I actually posted on there how I watch college football and how I watch football in general. And I'm a proponent of the zones system, where zone 1, 2, and 3 is right at the line of scrimmage. Then there's the linebacker level. Behind them is zone 4, 5, and 6. Then there's a safety level. Behind them is zone 7, 8, and 9. And the whole purpose, I believe, is to basically accordion those zones and find space and attack the middle of the field.
Yeah, that's where the defenses are most prone now, because people are starting to play the perimeters a lot better. People are starting to play the flat. So some of these basic concepts you're going to have to spruce them up a little bit. People are starting to catch on to RPO, so that's ever evolving as well. But the overarching thing is make them defend all 53.5 yards width. And now that's coming back towards the middle. So you got defenses spread out. Now you're starting to attack the middle. Now you're starting to collapse these defenses back in. So it's just like a back and forth chess match of, okay, we're going to attack you inside, then we're going to attack you outside, attack you inside, attack you outside. It's just about keeping those guys in the cylinder off balance, right? Keeping the safety off balance, keeping the inside linebackers off balance. And even you could even say keeping the interior defensive lineman off balance.
Yeah, this is a good as time as any to go around the SEC. Like I said, if you know why I'm doing that, then you know why I'm doing that. Corey, where do you want to start? Lead us through this, man.
Oh, okay. Let's start at let's start at LSU. What's happening at LSU?
Well, obviously Miles Brennan got hurt, and Max Johnson, who we both thought was going to win the job anyway. Now he's
Yeah.
definitely going to win the job. Miles Brennan actually hurt himself fishing, of all things. It's the most Mississippi injury story I've ever heard. And Max Johnson doing that. There's now they can settle in. Now they can do the things they need to do. They don't have a Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They do not have a Thaddeus Moss to recreate the magic of 2019. And Max Johnson is not Joe Burrow, but it's probably going to be a nice package.
Yeah, it will be. And they have some good things going. Kayshawn Booty is having a good camp. Max Johnson obviously is the guy, and that's it's an adjustment with him. They got a transfer from Georgia, defensive back Major Burns. Apparently, he's making an impact as well. He had a nice one-handed interception in a practice scrimmage setting. So, LSU they're doing some things. There's some positive news, but like anything, positive news is positive news at camp. So, Ole Miss, what's happening in Hotty Toddy Land?
Things are going well. We're going to talk about John Rhys Plumlee in the last segment of the show, so we're not going to get into that. Defense is looking well. They're flying around. Otis Reese is doing Otis Reese things.
Otis, my man Reese.
Yeah. And Jake Springer on the other side in the safety, former all-conference player at Navy. And then Chance Campbell, a former honorable mention all-conference player at Maryland. They've kind of reshaped that defense a little bit. So there could be some improvement on that side of the ball. And now they just now got into pads because Ole Miss doesn't play until Labor Day night. So they got a little bit of a late start. But you can see the pieces on that side of the ball really coming together. At wide receiver, on the outside, I've heard good things about Braylon Brown. I haven't heard too much about J.J. Henry, but we did the recruit check on Braylon Brown, and he would have been a 5-star in a normal year where you could actually have rivals camps, but since everything was shut down, he was just stuck at a 4-star. Tywone Malone is just recovering from an injury last season. It's going to take a little bit slow. It might cause him to play a little bit later. It might cause him to flash. It's just going to lighten the time frame a little bit. I still expect him in year 2 to be one of the guys and to flash at the end of this season.
What about Kenny Yaboa's spot? Who kind of takes over? Who kind of takes the range on the tight end spot?
I can't remember his first name, but Wolf, the true freshman out of Tennessee.
I've heard Hudson Wolf.
Hudson,
yeah, I read that.
Having a really good camp. He's showing out a little bit. You can expect Chase Rogers to really step up in that position as well. In the Outback Bowl, Chase Rogers, everybody forgets about him, but he had a really solid game. And he even got overshadowed in that game by Casey Kelly. And there's some weapons at the tight end position, but I also think you could see some 10 personnel or some 20 personnel with Jerry and Ely split out in the slot as well.
Okay. Nice. So some interesting things going on with personnel. That's always fun to watch unfold. Yeah, I've heard the offense. People are like, man, this offense is legit. So, yeah.
Hey, Adrian. I do expect Snoop Connor to get some carries. They have so many weapons in the backfield, and like I've told on my podcast numerous times, this is a run-first offense. This is a 60% run offense. Just the big plays in the pass game gets the press clippings, but it's a 60% run offense. So I expect Snoop Connor to be the guy that comes in the late third quarter and fourth quarter and kind of puts teams away, and I think he's going to be short yardage and goal line.
Nice. Snoop Connor, that's a name that I was excited to read about. So that's cool, man. So Arkansas. What are we hearing about Arkansas? I know there's a quarterback battle going on right now, but
KJ Jefferson's the guy. And have you seen his picture on the internet where he looked like a 42-year-old father of 4 doing the press conference?
I did. They did a side by side of Samuel L. Jackson from what's that movie? White Snake Moan, Black Snake Moan.
Black Snake Moan.
Yeah, it's crazy. I died laughing when I saw that. I was like, what the hell? But yeah, but some things that are to be expected. They're finding some special teams stalwarts. They're finding somebody that's going to help them in the return game. Um, I mean, there's some walk-ons that are doing it. AJ Green, incoming freshman, with a real AJ Green please stand up. Um, so yeah, they're looking on working on some special team stuff, and of course Traylon Burks is somebody that's he's carrying the torch as well. He's looking pretty good so far. And then you know they're physical. They're going to be physical. They're getting physical, and not much. I guess no news is good news. I haven't read a whole lot about Arkansas, so I just imagine it's all about KJ Jefferson and all about kind of some of the guys who are existing and finding and plugging some holes. So they're getting after it out there in Arkansas.
Yeah, and KJ Jefferson from North Panola. One of the things when he was coming out, and one of the reasons I didn't really want Ole Miss to sign him at that time, even with all that was going on, is I didn't like his throwing motion. I never liked his throwing motion. It's a little bit of Danny Werfel in his throwing motion. Now, a lot of that got changed in college once he got to Arkansas, so he's obviously been working on it. But it's good to see him do well. But at that time, I did not really expect to. I didn't want him necessarily to end up in Oxford.
Yeah, but he's gonna do well for I was about to say Mississippi State. He's gonna do well for Arkansas. So I'm excited to see what they got. I'm a big fan of Sam Pittman.
Yeah, yeah. Let's go to Starkville. Are you hearing anything out of there?
Can you see my screen right now? Because I swear to God, I was on Mississippi State's website trying to see what kind of storylines they have there. But they're getting after it. Of course they're trying to just install and they're trying to get their system right. They're trying to get Will Rogers, and of course they have Jay Abraham, also as a transfer quarterback from the Mustard Buzzers, as I heard you
from Oxford.
Yeah, from Oxford, went to Southern Miss, now is in Starkville. So he's getting the tour of the Mississippi colleges. So maybe he'll transfer and do the JUCO circuit and then come back. Who knows?
Yeah, but he's like a 6th or 7th year senior at this point.
Well, it's never too late, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, they're just again same old stuff from Mississippi State. Not a whole lot of buzz. They're just practicing, getting these guys some experience.
Yeah, Mississippi State. Mike Leach is going to turn these guys around because Mike Leach always turns his teams around. It's always on the same time frame, and it always happens the same way, no matter where he's at. But year 2 is going to be another struggle year. It's going to be a Will Rogers sophomore year. They're probably going to flash towards the end of the season to where it's starting to come together, but it's not going to be completely there. They're going to have some weapons at wide receiver. I'm interested to see what Antonio Harmon looks like in this offense. Could he be their Michael Crabtree?
I think he could be. I think he's somebody that's scary. He's he fits the mold of that, so it wouldn't shock me one bit.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do. I'm really looking forward to Thanksgiving and to see the end of the year, what it will look like, because by that point they should be flashing and starting to turn into what they want to be, and the lane train should be rolling.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun Egg Bowl. It's going to be a fun season with those two, Leach being Leach and Kiffin being Kiffin. So let's head on over to Auburn. Some big news from there, literally and figuratively. Tyrone Truesdale has hit the portal. He is no longer with the team, defensive tackle. That's a huge loss. But he has entered the portal. That's a big hit to the defensive line room. So that's the biggest story coming out of Auburn camp right now. So they're probably reeling a little bit off that one. And I think that's going to hurt them a little bit. I already thought they were going to be a little shaky just because I just don't love the way their roster is made up, especially on the offensive defensive lines. And to take a hit like this is not good.
Yeah, they're reshuffling, especially on the defensive side of the ball, what they want their players to be like. what is the physical recipe for that player? And it's going to end up being 285, 290 pound, 5 techniques on the outside defensive end with a 320 pound 2-gapping nose guard, and Derek Mason is going to play games off of that. But getting there is going to be it's going to take a little time.
Yeah, they're gonna. I don't know what they're gonna do. They're gonna have to piecemeal it. Luckily, they got a couple of transfers in before this, so maybe some guys get some work that weren't expected to get some work. Maybe there's a couple freshmen that we're gonna redshirt now, and surprise, you're in the rotation. So, also interested to know what they're going to be doing at the wide receiver position. That's a big hole to fill with Seth Williams and Eli Stove and Anthony Schwartz all leaving. So. I think they're, obviously that they've got a long way to go on that.
Yeah, absolutely do. With Gus Malzahn at Auburn, their passing game always struggled. They always tried to square peg and round hold it. And with his offense, like Cam Newton and Nick Marshall was dangerous. And then if you had a regular passing quarterback like Jarrett Stidham, it was good, but not great. So it held back wide receiver recruiting and everything happened. And offensive line, they were a disaster. And
they've been a disaster for a while. And Jarrett Stidham was really not a fit for Gus Malzahn's offense.
Oh, not even a little bit.
I thought that was really odd that he came.
Malik Willis should have been the guy.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about Malik Willis and Nick Marshall and those guys that have been in that Gus Malzahn system, Jarrett Stidham won the job. Malik Willis was on that roster.
Yes,
and he could.
Was.
Yeah,
he was. He should have won the job. I think he was a better fit, or at least more of a better fit than Jarrett Stidham was. Bo Nix is got up. For him, he's just got to, and he's got a good quarterback mentor now with Mike Bobo. But he's got to figure out how to exist in the pocket and not feel phantom pressure. And so, if he can develop that, I think that's the biggest storyline coming out of Auburn, and trying to figure out how they can manage that and how Bo Nix can really just manage a game.
Yeah, I was talking to Jake on Best of the West last night about Bo Nix, and really when he missed that 4th and 3 easy wide open pass that everybody remembers, that mentally, I don't know if he has completely gotten over that since.
No, he hasn't.
Yeah, I think that actually wrecked him. And if he can get past it this season with this pro-style spread of Brian Harsin and Mike Brobo and everything they're going to do, great. Good for him. With Matt Corral last season, you can obviously see it's possible. But I worry that still, once the live bullets start going, he's just going to revert back to that mindset, and it's going to be a problem.
Yeah, because they always do. Anybody and everybody. But so stay tuned to that. He doesn't. The leash has got to be tighter, right? Because you have TJ Finley standing on the sideline now. You have DeAndre Davis also waiting in the wings. He's supposed to be a young phenom quarterback. So you've got some options now if you're Brian Harsin, and you don't really have anything invested into Bo Nix at this point. Who's to say that first time Bo Nix struggles, he doesn't get the hook?
And you got Mr. Bojangles in the backfield with Tank Bigsby just signing with them this season.
You do.
Also, DJ Ugalele, got that right again, signed with Dr. Pepper for the Fansville commercial this year. He's going to be in the Fansville commercial this year.
Is he going to be like the new mayor of Fansville? He's going to be like
I don't know. I mean, those commercials are pretty funny. I like Brian Bosworth, mainly because I remember Brian Bosworth. And the character he plays on those Fanfield commercials are nothing like that. If you have any idea about the personality of the Boz, watch Stone Cold.
Mm-hmm. The Boz. Brian and the Boz. There's two different personalities, two different alter egos. But yeah, those Fanville commercials are they're cringily funny. Like you watch them, you're like, oh, and then you laugh, and then you feel bad about laughing.
But Larry Culpepper, even before Fansville. I mean, Dr. Pepper, they do a good job with these commercials. They know how to hit middle America and whatever they're going on, and something that's just kind of funny and just making you chuckle. And then all of a sudden, obviously, it's Dr. Pepper centric.
Yeah, and you obviously remember it, so
Hmm.
that's pretty good. I mean, it's good marketing. It works.
Yeah.
And Dr Pepper. It's not going to make me drink a Dr Pepper. I mean, I like Dr Pepper. I don't love Dr Pepper, but nonetheless, this show's not brought to you by Dr Pepper. But if you're listening, Dr Pepper, come on,
Hey, we're here. Come on, bring it.
come on, come on. I'm all for it. I'll drink some Dr Peppers for you. I
Um,
you can make
let's-
that a Dr Pepper.
yeah, yes. Also, by the way, Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar is the only soft drink that I found a 0 calorie soft drink that I like. So Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar.
You don't like Coke Zero?
I have it. I like it when it's cold, but when it gets warm, it has a weird aftertaste. But they're about to
Yeah.
change the flavor, so I don't want to commit to it.
They already have. I tried the new flavor. They had them in bottles. I bought it at Kroger yesterday. It's good.
It is?
It's good. It tastes. It's like a regular Coke, but not quite as heavy and syrupy.
Okay. Okay.
It's a cleaner, sharper taste. You will enjoy it. I promise.
Also, if you're in the
And
chat watching the show, tell me a 0 sugar, 0 calorie soft drink that I can enjoy besides Dr. Pepper if you can come up with anything. Let me know.
I bet Britt likes Mountain Dew Zero.
Oh, nobody likes Mountain Dew Zero.
Yeah, you can't take the calories out of Mountain Dew. You're right.
So let's go up to your neck of the woods, Nashville, Vanderbilt.
Ooh,
What are
yeah.
you hearing about the Commodores other than some straight fire uniforms?
Well, the uniforms are fire. They kind of have a throwback look to them.
Hmm.
I like the long V. That part was really good. I know Craig wasn't when we talked about it on Beast of the East, wasn't too fond of it, but I think they hit a home run with it. But Clark Lee, you know, they're having a good camp. They're getting after it. They finally got jersey numbers. That's the first thing, so you know who's who. But I've learned that Ken Seals is the real deal. Like they have found a good quarterback in Ken Seals. So
Shocking,
they're
right?
I know, right? We are the president and vice president of the Ken Seals fan club. So I guess we're a little biased, but um,
His dad follows me on Twitter.
I know
Yeah, because that's how much I obsess about Ken Seals.
that's right. I love it. But yeah, it's really good. That they're making some headway. They're finding some stars. They're finding some people. Defensively, Ethan Barr, he was back. He was injured. He's a favorite to start coming into camp. But James Ziegler the third, he was brought in as a DB, but he's a running back now. The depth was a huge concern. They moved some guys around. James Ziegler is proving to add some depth there. Uh, you've got some guys, of course, banged up and here and there, and Ezra McAllister, wide receiver. Um, he's somebody that they're going to look to count on as well. They just got to get guys healthy and keep guys healthy, and they're having a physical camp, so there's going to be nicks, bumps, bruises. Lots of guys in red non-contact jerseys. It almost seems like they just pass these red non-contact jerseys around to different people, different days. So, but they're getting that shows that they're getting after it. That shows that they are invested in it, and that shows that they want to be a more physical brand of football. So, I think that's the main thing right now. Just establish the culture. Don't worry about personnel. Don't worry about wins and losses this year. Establish the culture, be a physical, competitive football team, and it can only go up from there. I mean, they were pitiful last year. So, really, they can't get any worse, honestly.
Australia only drinks beer. We don't drink soft drinks here. And Brett Hubbard is a Fresca Diet 7 Up for his house.
Oh, I
And
love Fresca, Brett. Good choice. Good choice.
so we're going to go up the road. Let's go up I-65 and something over to Lexington. Liam Cohen and the boys. What are you hearing from
The
Vinny
big,
Hardy? Yeah, what are you hearing from the Big Blue Nation?
the big grocery bag. No, I'm hearing that Will Levis is the guy. I mean, he is tearing it up there, and they love him. So, um, yeah, he's
Yeah,
one of the main ones. I'm hearing. Obviously, the running backs are the big story. So I'm liking what I'm hearing there with Chris Rodriguez and Cavassier Smoke. But Yeah, it's all about the quarterbacks right now.
I do worry. So Bill Callahan, when he coached at Nebraska, he brought his Oakland Raiders West Coast offense, basically the same playbook that John Gruden runs, to
Yeah.
Nebraska. They had trouble picking it up. Nebraska struggled. Now, the reason I bring that up is Liam
The
Cohen.
West Coast offense is like
Yeah.
that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sean McVay runs basically the same stuff as John Gruden. Liam Cohen is a protege of Sean McVay. So I do worry about Kentucky being a little bit too oversaturated for a college kid. 20-hour rule whenever you're putting this in, or maybe he's going to pare it down. Maybe he's smart enough to do that, but
Or maybe he
I am
has a
worried.
guy, Will Levis, that knows it like the back of his hand too. That's an edge that Levis had, according to Vinny. He is a
Okay.
Liam Cohen guy, so um, that's he has familiarity with the system. But yes, he's going to have to pare it down. I mean, there's no choice in that. He has to. If he's going to be successful, he has to, because there's no way they can learn the Sean McVay offense in its entirety.
No, it's professional football for a reason, and it's
Mm-hmm.
for people like Sean McVay. That's the reason the air raid and so many concepts that they do in Kansas City, it looks kind of different because Kansas City has all the time in the world to get that in and drill it right and do what needs to be done. They have a playbook that's like that, and college is going to be like that.
Yeah, but also, when you throw a Kansas City example, it's also that what's his name? Andy Reid is the what's his name? Andy Reid is one of the most creative play designers in the history of the NFL. So you take an already creative offense and you make it even more creative. I mean, in the Super Bowl, he pulled out something from the 1946 Rose Bowl
Yeah,
and scored on it. I mean, come on, like how deep are you diving? So that just shows you the mind of somebody like that, and the fact that what baffles me is uh, that Cliff Kingsbury is having even a shred of success, because I thought he'd come in, the air raid would fall flat on its face, and he's a Mike Leach disciple, and he is one of the true Mike Leach guys. I thought it would fall flat on its face, and it hasn't. I mean, it hasn't been as successful as he probably wants it to be. But Arizona, they're dangerous. They're in a tough division too. That doesn't help, but yeah,
yeah. And credit be to Cliff Kingsbury for coming in to the Arizona Cardinals and being willing to listen to other concepts, taking his best stuff and mixing the other stuff that works in the NFL, and not just doing a Mike Leach thing that everybody thought, or even what he did at Texas Tech.
yeah. I mean, obviously he's got the culture piece of it down, because he's attracting some big fish to come to Arizona. Like J.J. Watt doesn't come to Arizona to play in a crap culture for a lame duck head coach. Like there's a reason they're collecting all this talent. There's a reason that DeAndre Hopkins, outside of not wanting to get the COVID vaccine, but that he loves being in Arizona. That there's a
Bill
reason. There's a
O'Brien.
cult. Yeah, he's just away from Bill O'Brien. That's it. And funny news about to go around the Houston Texans here, but to go Houston Texans after dark. David Johnson is like number 3 on the depth chart now.
Oh, so now he's a third string running back.
Yeah,
Yes.
because you know who's ahead of him?
Who?
Mark Ingram. Hold on, let me see the text. Let me see the alert here. It's Mark Ingram and who was the other guy? God Almighty, uh, Philip Lindsay. They signed Philip Lindsay in the offseason.
Ooh. I liked Philip Lindsay in Denver. He fit in Denver. I just don't know why. I don't know how he's going to fit in Houston since we're
He's
doing around
not.
the NFL or
Yeah.
SEC, NFL
Yeah.
After Dark.
Well, that's pretty much SEC is NFL junior anyway, so why
Yeah.
not? But no, I mean nobody fits in Houston. Houston's a terrible franchise.
Yeah.
But Melvin Gordon came in and just immediately just said, "Nah, to hell with you, Philip Lindsay. um, you ain't worth it." So
So, real quick before we move on to the John Rhys Plumlee stuff, what are you hearing about Texas A&M about their quarterback competition and anything that's going on in Aggie land? I know McKinley Boykin got suspended from the team for getting arrested, Fulmer Cup type stuff,
oh,
and
nice.
And yeah, it is what it is. But on top of that, he was expected to be a starter this year. What are you hearing at the quarterback position?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're in day 3 right now, or they're well, they just wrapped up day 3 a couple days ago. They're probably day 4, day 5. But Haynes King, he's running with the ones right now. Um, he's doing well. He's got some nice throws on some deep balls. He's been faced. They've been putting a lot of pressure on him defensively on purpose by design. Zach Calzada's run mostly with the twos. He's got a good quick release. They didn't throw as much in his face, but King is showing better decision making, and he's still got the edge, and I think he'll keep that edge.
Okay, so that'll be interesting to see, especially like I said, beginning of October, October 2nd, Ole Miss, Alabama, October 9th, Texas A&M, Alabama.
What's awesome, what I'm fired up about with this Aggie team is you have a defensive depth chart. They returned 9 starters, and a number of those are super seniors. So you know that something special's brewing if a lot of those guys came back as super seniors because they're talented. But you got Michael Clemens, Miles Jones, Jaden Peavy, Kendrick Carper. They're back for their super senior season. I'm a big fan of Isaiah Spiller. Joining him in the backfield is Devin Akane. That's going to be a nice 1-2 punch for the Aggies. So look for them to develop as well. I'm really a big fan of that. DeMarvin Leal could be contending for SEC Defensive Player of the Year. He could make a big impact as well.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Texas A&M. Texas A&M they're the one team from the West that got canceled last year against Ole Miss. We don't know what a Mike Elko defense looks like against Lane Kiffin. It could be a team that stifles what Ole Miss does. It could be a team that Ole Miss runs rampant on. We just don't know. But that game will be in Oxford this year, and I really look forward to seeing that. Ole Miss plays LSU in Oxford too. So other than Alabama and Auburn, every game is in the state of Mississippi at least.
Yeah, you better work on that pass pro with A&M coming to town. It's the number one defense. It's the conference's number one defense versus what's likely to be the conference's number one offense this year. So, obviously, the conference's number one offense was the Crimson Tide last year, but that's not going to stand, I don't think. So
yeah, with Jalen Waddle being gone, Devontae Smith, Mac Jones, Najee Harris, there's so many losses. Eventually, no matter how good you are, no matter what stars you recruit, it's going to catch up with you. It just has to. I just have to believe that.
Yeah, and I'm going to believe that until they show me otherwise. And
yeah.
He probably will because Nick Saban has an act for that,
Yeah, if they do, they do.
He's going to drive off in his Mercedes-Benz when he does it too. So it's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, they lost a receiver for the year. Also, they lost. I think it was Xavier Williams. I'm no longer on the. Hold on, I'll tell you in just a second. They lost. Xavier Williams, wide receiver. They're going to be without him for the season. So that room gets a little bit thinner. He's been working with the team since spring. He was removed. Said that his absence, he will miss the season with an undisclosed medical condition. So he's getting processed, basically.
Yeah. That sounds like it. So,
and Jaleel Billingsley is back. Tight end Jaleel Billingsley. So
that's big news because he's a legit weapon that those guys have.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever Jake Thomas talks about 2 tight ends, they're talking about basically splitting out Billingsley into the slot because he can play that.
It's kind of like Darnell Washington and Eric Gilbert. It's 12 personnel. It's not really 12 personnel.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like when we used to have Evan Ingram.
Mm-hmm. That's like the new age tight end.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We'll hit our last topic. John Rhys Plumlee playing at slot with the first team at Ole Miss in fall practice. I'm real excited about that. There was a video they released today of him making a fantastic over-the-shoulder catch. It looks like they want this to be his to win, and the reason I think is why is because of the zones I put out earlier on Twitter, and also he will be an absolute weapon in the jet sweep game. If that is the first option in my favorite play of that jet sweep, then you have Jerry and Ely at the running back position that could get the ball, and the third option being Matt Corral on a zone read. That is my favorite play that we run in this playbook, and we have not seen it at Ole Miss yet.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of all the potential trick plays and double passes that come off of John Rhys Plumlee being in the slot. That's kind of like permanently putting Taysom Hill in the slot for the Saints. Like it's dangerous because he's a better athlete than Taysom Hill, I think. So that'll be. I mean, I'm excited for it. I think he'd be a good jet runner. He'll be a good tough jet runner. He'll be good catching some of those short passes and getting into zone 3, zone 4, zone 5, some of those intermediate zones, and really just kind of wreaking havoc. I mean, is he going to be a downfield threat? Probably not. He's not going to be a vertical guy that's going to take the lid off the defense. No, he's probably not. But he's not going to have to be. He's going to be the short guy. He's going to be the Edelman. So I'm excited to see what he can do in that playmaking role with them being so run centric, and they run a bunch of different timing stuff off the jet sweep. I think he'll be special. I think he'll be good, and I'm excited for it. I think there's a lot of creativity that you can have with John Rhys Plumlee that you don't have with somebody else, and I think he fills that need very, very well.
Yes, Adrian JRP is playing in the slot full time. Now, if something were to happen to Matt Corral, I imagine John Rhys would go back to quarterback. He's going to be the number 2 emergency quarterback. But mop-up time, it'll be Kincaid Dent and Luke Altmaier. But for the time being, he is exclusively playing at slot because Lane Kiffin said in his press conference on, I think, Monday, you can't do this basically halfway. You have to be all in or not. So this is an effort to make him good. Like I said, he made a heck of a catch today. I linked it on my Twitter feed. Over the shoulder, nice little one-on-one grab. And there's a lot of reasons to be excited about John Rhys in the slot. And don't forget, I am really excited about J.J. Henry. If you have a chance, go look at the huddle video of J.J. Henry, and you'll see exactly why I'm so excited. That is the playmaker position in this offense, that slot receiver. The outside guys, they're going to run the deep stuff, and they're going to block. But a lot of the work is going to be done on the inside by the tight end and the slot receiver.
There's some guy named Elijah Moore. I don't know if you guys have heard of him. He's apparently, if we want to go around the New York Jets here, he's making some headlines up in New York. He's making a splash up there. So John Rhys Plumlee is going to fill his shoes. That's going to be a tough thing to do, but John Rhys Plumlee is a good athlete, and he'll be able to do it. Not in the same way that Elijah Moore did it, but in a similar way in the fact that he's going to be a problem for opposing defenses.
Yeah, and you're going to have to match up. And with John Rhys on the field and Jerry and Ely on the field, you could put John Rhys at running back. You could put Jerry out at slot. It's going to be a matchup nightmare. And there's just so many toys for an offensive coordinator, for Jeff Lebby, for Lane Kiffin to play with, and just messing with defenses.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy. Like they're going to be able to stack some things. They're going to be able to. I mean that triple option without ever pitching the ball is going to be outstanding.
Oh, I can't wait.
It's the Kiff triple option is going to be outstanding with Jerry Neely. I think they're going to be able to do some cool stuff with some double passes, some throwback stuff, some jet reads, and they're going to be able to. I see them motioning him in the backfield and getting like 20, 21 personnel type looks where you have Ely on one side, Plumlee on the other, and Corral, and just doing some crazy stuff there too. And I mean, there's so many possibilities with him in the slot. I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, we've already seen a propensity to use JRP on the wheel route, so I think that'll make an appearance this year as well. So, like with the tight end position and everything going on, I expect to see a 10 personnel look, although it might be 20 personnel depending on the running backs. But they can run some different stuff. It'll be interesting and very versatile.
Yeah, and they can go from 10 to 20 personnel just like that, and have two quarterbacks in the backfield, and you can, just the it's endless, the possibilities.
Yeah, they don't substitute. So since they don't substitute, you can have the same personnel on the field and run a play that's normally a 21 personnel thing with a tight end. You can run a 10 personnel play. You can run a 20 personnel play. You have all these formations you can jump from and not slowing down a bit or taking a single person off the field.
Exactly. And versatility is key. Having these guys being able to do multiple things is going to be very valuable for this offense. And it's going to be a big reason and a big pillar as to why they're able to have the production they can have.
Yeah, all right. Well, Corey, thank you very much. Thank you, everybody that participated in chat. We're going to do this quite frequently. It's going to be available. Chat's going to be available on SEC After Dark and our post-game show. We've got notes. We're also going to take calls eventually. So we're going to expand the offering here. Next week, Jeb Beecham is going to be back. Talking about Tennessee. He's doing some homework right now in the Tennessee quarterback situation. I'm actually excited to watch the Vols, and we didn't bring him up on purpose here to allow Jeb to talk about that. Thank you, Brett, for the comment there. But for Corey, I'm Steve, and I just want to tell everybody, hotty toddy.
Go Dogs. Thank you for listening and watching.